Hey guys, hope you're well. This video is going to be all about the takeaway, what impact it can have on the downswing and the delivery of your golf club, and how you can ensure that your takeaway is a little bit more consistent. So if you struggle with how to move the club away, sometimes you're confused as to whether you need to take the club further that way or more inside, then this video is for you. Often what I find is if the movement of the golf club in the first instance in the takeaway is not correct, there's a lot of compensatory moves needed and required on the downswing and down at delivery. We're going to use the swing plate because it's a good visual and a good physical barrier actually for when you're training, and a good reference point. So I've got my 9-iron here, and we've set that we've set the alignment stick to the same angle as my 9-iron club shaft there. So what we've got to be careful of when we move the club away is that we don't allow the arms to become disconnected. At the same time, we don't want the club to move under plane too early. Again, both of those moves lead to compensatory moves in the downswing. So there's two things we're going to focus on in this video to get this correct. The first one is the angle of your left wrist, or your lead hand, I should say, on the golf club. And the other one is how your lead shoulder works in the takeaway. So what we see with really good players, I'm just going to take this hand off the golf club. What we see with really good players generally is this lead shoulder beginning the golf swing by moving down and across. What that tends to do, it tends to encourage the hands and the end of the grip to just move an arc inwards ever so slightly in relation to where they started from. If we get the correct force acting on the top of the grip, it's nigh on impossible for the club head to do something that incorrect, undesirable. Very difficult for me to move this club head off plane if this is really passive here. So I feel like I'm moving that golf club away with my left shoulder and this upper part of my left arm in this instance here. Now I'm not kind of turning my torso yet. I'm allowing my left shoulder to move across and in. The turn will come a little bit later on in the backswing when we want to transport the club to the top. So what's really important is we learn to use that lead shoulder to move the club away. And in particular, we're moving the handle away. Don't have too much focus in order to fix where the club head may or may not be. Try not to focus too much on where the club head is. Chances are, if this is incorrect, if the club is in the wrong place, chances are the force is acting on the handle and how your upper body is working. That the fault lies there, not in the club head. So again, left shoulder is going to push the handle over my trail foot as I watch here. That's a really good visual for you. Now, the reason why the club head isn't following the grip. So if we move the grip in, you'll see that, yeah, the club head's moved inward slightly, but the club head's not over there now. And that's because of the angle in my left wrist. So that's coaching point number 2 here, is when you begin the golf shot and you put your lead hand on the grip there will be some amount of angle in your left wrist. Unless you grip it really, really weak to the point where your lead hand is turned very much underneath the club and you can't see any knuckles. If you've got a fairly functional grip, you will have a slight angle in your left wrist there. Now your job, until the club gets parallel to the ground, is to avoid changing that angle. So I'm going to lift the club off the ground now, so a little bit easier for you to see. There's that wrist cock movement that we want to produce in the golf swing at some point halfway back. If I just turn my lead shoulder across and use that nice big muscle here, you'll see that if I put my right hand on the golf club now, that club's in a pretty functional space. I'm not worrying about where the head is. This feeling here in my lead wrist, I'm just keeping that, using my lead shoulder to transport that feeling. I can still feel I've got the same structure in my left wrist now as what I have here. So it's not going to move. Left shoulder is moving across and down. I haven't done anything with this lead wrist yet. What you'll find when we put the trail hand on the golf club, I'm focusing on my lead shoulder, pushing down and across, and I'm going to try and keep that same angle in my glove. I can feel that there. Now, after this point, yes, the trail arm is going to fold, and we're going to turn the rib cage. So trail arm folds, turn the rib cage. That's when we start to put in the other body parts and the other components to the backswing. But chances are, if we've done that first move correct, we've got the correct forces on the handle, then that club's gonna move up much more in balance. It's not going to be too far off plane now. It's not going to be too shallow halfway back. What a lot of you will feel when you first start doing this is that rather than the force going that way on the grip, because some golfers try and fix their takeaway by sending the club out and away. Well, all that happens then, the force on the grip is going that way. That then encourages the head to go further behind me. So if you can get the force on the grip on the handle that way, so now I've kept the angle in my left wrist, I can feel this big muscle group here engaged, you'll never go wrong with that takeaway. It will always be in a pretty functional space, and therefore the golf club will be more in balance halfway back, requiring less compensatory moves on the way down. So let's give that a little go. Lead hand on the club, little angle in my left wrist here, and left shoulder, really starting that golf swing for me. Very passive with the hands, and I'm going to keep that angle in my left wrist in that takeaway for as long as I can. Okay, struck that pretty good. Is it going to catch a piece of the green? Yes, it is. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. I'd love to hear your questions and thoughts on this little video. And take care until next time.